morning. I'm glad to be here. I'm Dr. Robert Smith, a chartered diplomat of the American Board of Family Medicine. I'm here because I'm one of the panelists this morning to talk about nurse midwifery when I came back to this area. Nurse midwifery probably preceded physician's care, and it's a very important part of human history, even biblical, and throughout all of societies and ethnicities. And it's a very, very important part, an important part of healthcare from its very beginning. Thank you.
Untitled Chapter. I'm here organizing a summary and future projections for the Scott Ford Inc. project. I've been taking notes all day. It's been amazing. People in the community have come out. Educators have come out. They've suggested a lot of valuable information. They've given a lot of advice. So I'm here chronicling that story, so hopefully the community can one day see the Scott Ford House Museum take shape.
My name is Jackie Hammock, and this is little baby Morris. He is 11 months old, and we are here because I have a long-standing interest in midwifery, because I firmly believe that it's what's best for women and babies. Little Morris was born 6 weeks premature, so he was unable to be delivered by a midwife, but we were seeing a midwife before he came early, so we're firm supporters of midwives.
Now I am finna get ready to move to Florida, Orlando, Florida, to pursue accelerated BSN program, to eventually move to a midwifery program at Emory College in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay, so what school are you going to down in Florida?
I'm going to Remington College of Nursing in Florida to become a nurse midwife.
Okay.
And I would like to travel the world as a nurse midwife, because I know in Mississippi they don't see midwives. They don't allow midwives to practice.
Mm-hmm. So where in the world is midwifery most needed?
It's mostly needed like in Africa and in Brazil and India. Those are the main places I've seen that midwifery is most needed.
Okay. When we talk about midwifery in some of these underdeveloped countries, when you talk about Africa, is there any particular part of Africa, Sahara, Sub-Sahara?
I'm not sure. I haven't done that much research on that yet.
But you know you're dedicated to all of that, though.
Yes, I'm dedicated to here in the United States especially, but eventually to move to nationwide, worldwide.
My name is Dorothy Moore, and I was born and raised here in Jackson, Mississippi. And I attended here, Smith Robertson Elementary at the time, but now museum. And we were here today on the midwife stories. And yes, I was delivered by a midwife, I'm very happy to say, because I feel that a midwife was just as important as our mothers. Our mothers carried us, and the midwife brought us to the world, delivered us. And I'm very thankful for that, because I wouldn't be who I am today. I'm known all over the world, a recording artist. I've been nominated for 4 Grammys and still make my home in Mississippi. Thank you very much.
And I want to start with a quote from Mrs. Sutton. She said, "If I had stopped because they didn't pay me, I stopped a long time ago." And she's talking about being a midwife.
Gloria was a 16-year-old African-American child when her mama gave her to Becky so that she too could become a midwife. Her mother knew that Becky made a good living as a midwife. She made a little money, but she often accepted turnip greens, eggs, and ham for her wages. You could live, and you could live prosperously on those rations. Throughout the course of their lives, delivering babies is all that Becky and Aunt Flo ever did.
There wasn't a lot of money, but regardless, midwifery work was always seen as God's work, and that regardless of whether somebody had money or not, they were served, they were taken care of. The midwife came, no matter where they were, and she would be paid, whether it's with chickens, produce, promises, but it was always whether you have money or not. I'm going to be here.
But most of the time she told me when I got older, she never got a nickel. But she still did the job because she loved what she was doing.
Right.
She wanted to do it. She was inspired by her job. Even though she didn't, sometimes she knew she wasn't going to get nothing. But she did what she did and went on. And sometimes, about half the time, she never got a nickel. Never got a dime.
Because those people were going, a lot of times they'd have to go in their barns and get whatever they had.
Yeah, sometimes they give us chickens, eggs, stuff like that.
Eggs. One man got a mule.
Oh yeah, we had mules.
Remember my mom, a few years later, we would gather peas or corn or whatever to help the poor families pay the midwife.
Right.
Because that's what they were paid with food and potatoes and canned goods and fruits and vegetables. And we would help the poor families pay the midwife. They was even paid with quilts, and that's how my grandma and my granddad separated, because of a quilt that somebody had given her, and they got in an argument over it, and they divorced over a quilt.
In 1921, the United States Congress enacted the Maternity and Infant Act, popularly called the Shepherd-Towner Act, which set a precedent for federal grant aid and aid programs to states for child and maternal care and education of personnel.
Regulations came in. Back in the 1920s, what we call the Shepherd-Towner Act in 1921. That's when you start seeing a lot of changes with the government getting involved and trying to. I think they honestly did want to try to make some changes with the infant mortality and the maternal mortality, but it was more of an attack on the black midwife.
Wives, African Americans, and Caucasians practiced folk medicine until the federal government passed the Shepherd-Towner Act in 1921. It was believed in medical circles prior to 1921, as Angela spoke about a minute ago, that too many infants were dying during the delivery ordeal. This act provided over $1 million for 5 straight years to the states to subsidize prenatal clinics, train and regulate midwives, and distribute health information to expectant mothers in urban and rural areas in the South. As a result of the Shepherd-Towner Act, almost half of the 6,000, Angela said 5, I don't know what the extras won't come in. As a result of that act, half of the 6,000 midwives in Mississippi were eventually eliminated either because of age or illiteracy. The remaining 3,000 managed to get permits to practice under the careful eyes of the Mississippi State Board of Health and the local county health departments from 1926 to the 1960s civil rights era.
3 or 4 times a month, 15, maybe 20 granny midwives would come and bring they had a bag, much like my bag, and they would come and they would bring that bag, and we would go through all of the things that they had to do in order to make the things in that bag sterile.
One of Eudora Welty's quotations that she used about Ida was born in this hand and this hand. She would birth them 2 at a time, black or white, rain or shine. And that was Ida's calling. What I like about Ida Matoy is that you look at her picture and it is this soul with 2 hands. And she talked about working in the times of the fever. She talked about the times before Jackson had a hospital. She talked about times of after she had a back injury, ran a used dress shop over here in the Fondren area. And even Jackson's wealthiest people, when they only had one dress back in those days and they needed something new, they would come and they did a swap shop with Ida, and they would leave with a new dress. So she was a celebrated part of Jackson, even in some of the dark years back then.
Let me just say a few brief things about Mom. She is sitting back there. She's...
Don't be brief.
Okay. She was one of the members of the first graduating class of Nurse Midwives Center in 1970. She earned a master's degree from the University of Mississippi School of Nursing. She was the first director of midwifery education program at the University of Medical Center. She held that post from 1975 to 1985. Again, 85. They cut me. When they closed that program down, I think it was politically driven, that's my opinion. Of course, I can say that because I'm not ever going to run for any office. As a director during that time, there were over 1,000 graduates to come through that program. And during her career, she earned a lot of awards. I'm not even going to mention those. But one thing I'm going to say is that that program acted as a springboard to many nurse midwives in other states, New York and other states, and played a role in establishing many practices. After the program closed in 1985, she continued to be a huge influence in nurse midwifery in the School of Nursing in Mississippi.
The architect documented this property right there before it was in the deteriorated state that it's in.
So you have pictures?
Yeah. Yeah. Of that project, of the house where they were, let's say by 1990, their archives and history first started working. There was a lot of national interest in midwifery and this property. But what I understand, we just didn't have that groundswell to understand what we had here.
I'm Xavier Carroll. I'm a student at Tougaloo College. I'm a freshman majoring in art education, and I am here on behalf of Tougaloo College at a Scott Ford event doing an interpretation of midwifery.
Let me just say that the Department of Treasury has cooperated extensively with the Senate Intel Committee, reclaiming my time, with the House Intel Committee, with the Judiciary Committee, reclaiming my time, reclaiming my time, reclaiming my time.
Enthusiasm, Scott Ford, 1, 2, 3. Scott Ford!
You can reach me by railway. You can reach me by trailway. You can reach me on an airplane. You can reach me with your mind. You can reach me by caravan, cross the desert like an Arab man. I don't care how you get here, just get here.
I was just thinking, I was trying to put myself in the mind of a midwife during the antebellum era and what type of mixed feelings about giving birth, you know, to another son or daughter to come into the community. You know, it's a moment of joy, but at the same time, it's a moment of sadness, if not tragedy even, I suppose, because you're you're continuing the same system of severe oppression. I mean, that was just what I had in mind.
You bring up a great point.
If I had a way, surely you would be closer. I need you closer.